47 odd years ago, I was born to my parents and they named me Deepak Badhwar. I was born in Delhi, though the earlier part of my life in childhood, I grew up in a small town in Haryana now, known as Kathir. As far as I can remember, I have always been interested in nature, birds, plants, butterflies around me. My mother says that when I was yet a child of 2 years old, I used to ask them, "Ye munya kya hai?" Now nobody had told me what munya was. And I used to think that the purple sunbird's name is munya. And I used to say, "Mummy dekho, baag mein munya aayi hai." Another thing that I would often ask, "Dad, ye tugli kya hota hai?" Now, tugli kya hota hai? They were very psyched. Ki tugli kya hota hai? Nobody knew what tugli was because there's no such thing as a tugli. And they would say, "What is he hearing?" Then one day in the garden while they were sitting with me, there's this Indian tree cry which goes, and that's when they sort of got an inkling. Okay, I'm trying to imitate it and say, "Tugli kya hota hai?" So I can safely say that my love for nature has been inborn. I have to thank my parents and my grandparents and now my wife and children for always being a support to me in this love and endeavor. Nobody has tried to ever discourage me or say you're wasting time or what are you doing. Another childhood incident I remember, we were in Kasauli and I vividly remember going downhill chasing butterflies. And I was 4 odd years old and then suddenly I was lost. We are talking of early 60s. And then somebody found me and took me to the club, have lemon squash, orange squash, and I'm crying, "Nahi mummy chahiye, nahi mummy chahiye." And then suddenly a butterfly flies across and I stop crying. I said, "Titli." And they all burst out laughing. Eventually my cousin found me. Kasauli is not such a large place. And so that's what I'm trying to tell about the background of my love of nature, which has been inborn. I eventually did my graduation in botany from Kashmir University and studied under my grandfather, who was a botanist and a nurseryman. My grandfather, Mr. Premnath Kohli, was a self-studied botanist and he was a veritable encyclopedia of plants of the Kashmir Valley or of the Himalayas. And under him, I had the opportunity to spend 3 years and learn a lot about plants in particular and nature in general. My trip in Kashmir, or my stay in Kashmir, besides the formal studies of college, was highly educative for me in terms of plants. I used to go for small treks with my aunt, Mrs. Urvashi Suri, to look at various wild alpine flowers which were growing there and which could also be used for garden purposes. In fact, my grandfather's nursery, with the help of my aunt, they were growing under controlled conditions high altitude Himalayan plants from the Kashmir Valley and other areas of the Himalayas for garden use. So here I was dabbling in androcysses, primulas, swertias and all other plants you can think of which are normally found wild in the Himalayas. Bird watching was always a passion for me, but I neither had the equipment nor the opportunity to go for bird watching during the earlier years. Eventually I was gifted a binocular and that's when I took to going out for field trips, watching birds and things like that. And eventually I think it has helped me grow as a better human being to be aware of my surroundings, of the nature including plants, butterflies, insects, reptiles, animals and birds. A lot of people ask me, where do I find the time in the hectic city life to look at birds, nature and everything? I personally believe that we just have to be aware of our surroundings. And this sheer awareness will get us close to nature. I don't have to travel hundreds of miles to some sanctuary. Just I step out of my house into the park and I can observe. Now all of us have compulsions, problems, life problems, earning a living, everything going on. I have been lucky that I have taken this as also a priority with me to be always in touch with nature or whatever is left of it in the urban areas. If I don't have time to go to a sanctuary to do bird watching or nature, well, I just go down to the park and observe the butterflies there or the ants there. There are 2 or 3 different varieties of ants right in this park downstairs. Then the variety of garden plants which are planted or the wild plants which come up especially during monsoon. I mean, the whole world around my house is transformed. So there is always time. It's a passion which has come from within in my case, but there is always time, and we all have problems in big cities of making ends meet, of running, catching on time, everything. But if one is fond of something, you can always take out a little bit of time every day, once a week, once a month, to spend, I would say, with yourself, with nature, to be united with your Creator.